What if a single sneaker floating in a misty river held the key to exposing a town's darkest secret, and only a retired Labrador could unlock it? Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. Before we dive into this heartwarming story, hit subscribe, so you'll never miss the most courageous dog tales we share every day. Imagine a misty morning in Willow Creek, Oregon. A hidden gem tucked away in the rolling hills where the fog clings to the ancient evergreens like a lover's secret whisper. It's the kind of place where neighbors wave from porches lined with wildflowers, where the Willow River snakes through the valley like a lazy storyteller sharing tales of old logging days and forgotten dreams. But on this particular day, the river held a darker story, one that would unravel the town's cozy facade and remind us all of the unbreakable bond between humans and their four-legged heroes. Picture this, Max, a golden Labrador, with fur like sunlight on autumn leaves, now silvered around the muzzle from years of service. He's no ordinary dog. Oh no, Max is a retired canine legend from the county's search and rescue team. Back in his prime, he sniffed out lost hikers in blizzards, pulled survivors from avalanche debris, and once even led rescuers to a trapped child in a collapsed mine shaft. But these days, at 12 years old, Max spends his time ambling alongside his owner, Clara Benson, a kind-hearted widow who runs the local bakery. Clara adopted Max after his retirement, giving him a quiet life, filled with belly rubs and leftover scones. Yet deep down, Max's instincts never truly retired. They're like embers in a dying fire, always ready to flare up when needed. That morning started like any other. Clara and Max were strolling the riverbank trail, the air crisp with the scent of damp earth and pine. Birds chirped overhead, and the water gurgled softly, almost invitingly. But then, something caught Max's eye. A tiny blue sneaker, no bigger than a child's palm, bobbing erratically in the current. It spun lazily, its laces trailing like desperate fingers grasping for help. Clara paused, chuckling at first. "Probably some kid's lost toy from upstream," she muttered. But Max froze. His ears perked, his body tensed like a coiled spring. Without warning, he bolted toward the water, ignoring Clara's calls. Splash! He plunged in his powerful paws, churning the icy flow. What happened next was pure instinct, the kind that makes you believe in miracles. Max swam straight to a spot downstream where the river bent around a cluster of jagged rocks. There, half submerged and limp, was a little girl, Lily Thompson, just 7 years old, with freckles dotting her pale cheeks and hair matted like wet feathers. She wasn't moving her small body face down in the shallows, the current tugging at her like an invisible thief. Max grabbed her collar in his jaws, gentle yet firm, and dragged her to the bank. He barked frantically, his deep resonant woofs echoing through the fog, alerting Clara and drawing a jogger from the trail. They performed CPR, and by some grace, Lily coughed up water, her eyes fluttering open in confusion and fear. But here's where the real mystery deepens, folks, the part that will keep you glued to this story, like Max, to a scent trail. As paramedics arrived and bundled Lily into the ambulance, Max refused to leave her side. He jumped up, paws on the gurney, whining low and insistent. Clara tried to pull him back, but Max's eyes locked on Lily's as if saying, "I'm not done protecting you yet." And in that moment, something chilling emerged. Lily's arms, exposed under the blanket, bore faint bruises, old ones shaped like gripping fingers, not from the river's rocks, but from something far more sinister. This isn't just a tale from Willow Creek. It's echoed in real life, reminding us of the profound role dogs like Max play in our world. Take Bella, a Labrador in California, back in 2018. She was out for a beach walk with her family when she spotted a child caught in a deadly rip current. Without hesitation, Bella dove into the waves, grabbing the kid's shirt and towing him back to shore. Experts say Labradors are bred for this, descended from water dogs in Newfoundland. Their webbed paws and otter-like tails make them natural swimmers. But the cause? It's that innate drive honed by centuries of companionship with humans. The consequence? Lives saved, families whole, and a ripple effect of gratitude that strengthens our bond with animals. Yet contrast that with the mistakes we often make. How many times have pet owners dismissed a dog's unusual bark or restless pacing as just being silly? In Willow Creek, folks later admitted they'd seen Max acting oddly around certain homes, growling at shadows, refusing to enter yards, but no one connected the dots. It's a common pitfall. We anthropomorphize our pets when it suits us, but ignore their warnings when it's inconvenient. The lesson here is crystal clear and empowering. Trust your pet's instincts. They often sense danger before we do. Dogs like Max don't just love us. They protect us with a sixth sense that's sharper than any human intuition. And speaking of that sixth sense, buckle up for the plot twist that hit Willow Creek like a thunderclap. As the ambulance sped away, Clara knelt by the riverbank where Max had pulled Lily out. She noticed something glinting in the mud, a small engraved locket half buried under a rock. Opening it, she gasped. Inside was a faded photo of a younger Max, puppy-eyed and playful, next to a little boy who looked eerily like Lily's description of her lost brother. Whispers in town later revealed Max's hidden trauma years ago. During a rescue op, he'd failed to save a drowning child, his handler's son, from this very river. The guilt had haunted him, turning every ripple into a reminder. Was this rescue redemption? Or had Max's past drawn him to Lily like fate's invisible leash? The town buzzed with questions, but the shadows were just beginning to lift. What secrets lurked in Lily's bruises, and why did Max growl every time a certain mechanic's truck rumbled by? Stick around, because as the fog clears in Willow Creek, the true nightmare emerges, one that Max, our heroic Labrador, is determined to unravel. As the ambulance doors slammed shut, and sirens wailed into the distance, Willow Creek held its breath. Little did anyone know the real storm was brewing, not in the river's depths, but in the hidden corners of a child's fragile world. Picture the sterile hum of Willow Creek General Hospital, where fluorescent lights buzz like uneasy whispers, and the scent of antiseptic masks deeper pains. Lily Thompson lay there in a crisp white bed, her small frame swallowed by tubes and monitors, her freckled face pale against the pillow. The doctors had stabilized her lungs clear of water vitals, steady. But as they peeled back her sodden clothes for a full exam, the room fell silent. There, blooming like ugly shadows on her arms and back, were bruises. Not fresh scrapes from rocks or the river's rough embrace, but old marks, faded purple handprints, the kind that spoke of repeated grips, too tight, too angry. These aren't from today. Dr. Elena Vargas murmured, her voice a mix of fury and heartbreak. Elena, a fierce pediatrician with a soft spot for the town's underdogs, had seen enough cases to know this was no accident. This was a pattern, a nightmare etched into skin. Enter Mark Thompson, Lily's stepfather, a burly mechanic with grease-stained hands and a smile that could charm the rust off an old Ford. He sauntered into the waiting room like he owned the place, his modest cabin on the town's edge, a supposed haven of family barbecues and laughter. "She's always been clumsy, that one," he drawled to the nurses, his eyes flicking nervously. "Trips over her own feet. Kids, am I right?" But oh, how that facade cracked when Max patted in. Clara had brought him along, figuring the hero dog deserved to check on his rescue. Mac, with his empathetic Labrador eyes, those soulful pools that labs are famous for, bred from generations of retrieving and comforting, locked onto Mark like a laser. A low growl rumbled from his chest, deep and unwavering, his golden fur bristling as if sensing the rot beneath the charm. Mark stepped back, chuckling awkwardly. "Easy there, mutt. Don't like strangers, huh?" But Max didn't budge. He planted himself by Lily's door, a silent sentinel whining softly whenever Mark drew near. It was as if Max was saying, "I see you. I know." Folks, this moment hits hard, because it uncovers the shadows we too often ignore, the insidious grip of child abuse lurking in places like Willow Creek, where economic hardships bite deep. Small towns like this, with mills closing and jobs scarce, breed stress that can erupt in the worst ways. Frustration boils over, turning hands that should nurture into weapons. The causes, often rooted in cycles of unresolved trauma. Maybe Mark's own rough upbringing echoing like a bad inheritance. But the consequences? Devastating. According to CDC studies on adverse childhood experiences, kids like Lily face sky-high risks. They're up to twice as likely to battle depression, anxiety, or PTSD later in life, their brains wired for survival mode, memories fragmented like shattered glass. It's not just emotional scars. It's higher chances of substance abuse, chronic health issues, even shortened lifespans. Contrast that with real horrors like the Turpin family case in California, where 13 siblings were chained, starved, and tortured for years. Community blindness let it fester, neighbors dismissing odd signs as private family matters. Yet early intervention, like in programs where alert adults step in, can break the chain, saving lives and futures. The common mistake: brushing off bruises as accidents or kids' stories as tall tales we tell ourselves it's not our business, but silence only tightens the noose. Here's the empowering lesson, my friends: bruises may fade, but silence perpetuates pain. Listen to the unspoken, and you become the light in someone's darkness. Max, bless his loyal heart, embodied that lesson with every fiber of his being. Labs like him are wired for empathy. Their scent-tracking noses can detect fear pheromones from yards away, their gentle natures making them perfect therapy dogs in abuse. Recovery centers. Remember Frida, the Labrador who helped rescue over 50 people after Mexico's 2017 earthquake. Her breed's unwavering drive turned tragedy into hope. Much like Max's soft whines and protective stance drew Elena in. She watched him intrigued as Max nudged Lily's hand through the door crack, his tail thumping faintly when the girl stirred. "This dog's more than a pet," Elena whispered to Clara. "He's a guardian angel with fur." But hold on tight, here comes the twist that sent chills rippling through Willow Creek like a cold front. Later that evening, as Elena paid a routine welfare visit to Mark's cabin ostensibly to check on Lily's home environment, Max tagged along, his nose twitching at the air. While Elena chatted tensely with Mark on the porch, Max wandered the yard, paws digging absently at the soft earth near a weathered fence. Suddenly, he froze, then pawed furiously, unearthing a small, dirt-caked stuffed rabbit, Lily's favorite toy, one she'd lost months ago, buried like a guilty secret. Mark's face drained of color. "Must have been the neighbor's dog," he stammered, but Max's growl said otherwise, his eyes piercing like accusations. Was this proof of hidden violence, or something even darker linking Mark to more than just Lily? The discovery ignited a fire in Elena, but the web was only starting to unravel. Whispers from the school hinted at other kids with similar shadows drawings that told tales no words could. Stick with me, because as secrets spill like river overflow, Max's vigilance pulls us deeper into a tangle of clues that no one saw coming. What if a child's scribbled drawing held more truth than a town's silence, and a Labrador's bark could scream louder than any human voice? The fog in Willow Creek thickened, wrapping the town like a shroud. But the real darkness wasn't in the air. It was in the secrets buried in crayon sketches and the unwavering gaze of a dog who refused to look away. Willow Creek Elementary sat at the heart of town, its red brick walls splashed with murals of smiling suns and stick figure families. Inside the art room smelled of tempera paint and innocence, its walls plastered with children's creations, crooked houses, lopsided trees, and dreams spun in bright colors. But Dr. Elena Vargas wasn't there to admire the cheer. She stood frozen, her breath catching, as Mrs. Harper, the soft-spoken art teacher, slid a stack of drawings across the table. "You need to see these!" Harper whispered, her eyes darting to the door, as if afraid the walls themselves might eavesdrop. Max, the golden Labrador, sat at Elena's feet, his silver-streaked muzzle low, but his eyes sharp, scanning the papers like he understood their weight. And oh, did they carry weight! The drawings were chillingly similar, each one a silent scream from a child too scared to speak. 4 kids, Lily, Alex, Mia, and Tyler, had sketched the same haunting scene, a tall man in heavy work boots looming by the Willow River, a child cowering, and a dog, unmistakably Max, barking fiercely in the corner. Alex's sketch was the roughest, his crayon lines jagged, showing the man's shadow stretching like a monster's claw. Mia's added a detail that made Elena's stomach twist, a tiny pair of sneakers sinking into the water. Tyler's drawing had words scrawled in wobbly letters. "The dog knows." Elena's hands trembled as she flipped through them. My God, she breathed. These kids, they're telling us something. Mrs. Harper nodded, her voice barely a whisper. They're scared, Elena. But Max, he's not just a dog to them, he's their protector. Max's role was no accident. Labradors, with their soul-deep loyalty and uncanny ability to read human emotions, are often the first to sense fear. Studies show dogs can detect stress hormones in sweat, their noses catching what our eyes miss. In places like Willow Creek, where secrets fester like damp rot, kids turn silent under pressure. Abusers like Mark Thompson exploit that trust, knowing small towns cling to "he's a good guy" myths. The cause: a toxic blend of denial and fear of rocking the boat, rooted in community dynamics where loyalty to neighbors trumps suspicion. The effect: generations of trauma, with stats from child welfare showing abused kids are 30% more likely to perpetuate violence, a cycle spinning like the river's current. Compare this to real cases like the Gabriel Fernandez tragedy, where teachers ignored cries for help, versus successes like art therapy programs in schools where drawings let kids speak without words. The mistake we make dismissing kids' art as just play when it's often a lifeline. The lesson: art isn't just expression. It's a cry for help in colors, and we'd better learn to read it. Max seemed to understand this better than anyone. As Elena studied the drawings, he pawed gently at Alex's sketch, his nose nudging the paper like he was pointing to evidence. "You see it too, don't you, boy?" Elena murmured, her heart pounding. Max's tail thumped once, but his eyes stayed locked on the door as if waiting for the boots to walk in. Mrs. Harper leaned closer. "The kids trust him. Alex, he doesn't talk much, but yesterday he sat by Max for an hour, whispering things I couldn't hear. It's like the dog's their voice." Elena's mind raced. This wasn't just about Lily anymore. There were others, their stories trapped in these pages, and Max was the key to unlocking them. But here's where the tension coils tighter. Folks, get ready for a twist that hit like a lightning strike. That afternoon, Elena brought Max to the school playground, hoping to talk to Alex. The boy, small and quiet, with eyes that darted like a cornered deer, sat alone on a swing. Max trotted over, nuzzling his hand, and Alex's lips moved, barely audible. "He was there," he whispered, glancing at Max. "The man with the boots." The dog saw. Elena knelt beside him, her voice soft. "What did Max see, Alex?" The boy's eyes widened, then flicked to the school's entrance where Mark Thompson's truck pulled up its engine, growling like a predator. Max's hackles rose, his growl low and primal, a sound that sent shivers through Elena. "Oh, Max, you fearless soul," she thought, her pulse racing. "You're calling out the devil himself." Mark stepped out, all smiles, a box of donuts in hand for the teachers, a classic move to keep suspicion at bay. "Afternoon, ladies," he called, but his eyes lingered on Max, a flicker of unease crossing his face. Elena noticed, and so did Mrs. Harper, who clutched her folder of drawings tighter. But then came the bombshell. The school's secretary rushed over, waving a fax from the sheriff's office. "Mark's been cleared," she said, confused. "They say there's no evidence, just a kid's fall in the river. Case closed." Elena's jaw dropped. "Cleared? How can they ignore this?" she exclaimed, her voice shaking with disbelief. Mark's smile widened, but Max's growl deepened, his body tensing as if ready to lunge. The air crackled with unspoken accusations, and Elena knew someone was protecting Mark, someone with influence. And it wasn't just small-town loyalty. This wasn't just a plot twist, it was a gut punch. In real life, abusers often slip through cracks because of alibis or community bias, like in cases where local heroes dodge scrutiny. The mistake: assuming authority equals truth. The lesson: trust the voiceless kid's dog's drawings over polished lies. Max's reaction screamed what words couldn't, and Elena felt the weight of it. As Mark drove off, Max stared after him, his eyes burning with a knowing that chilled her to the bone. Was there a bigger secret hiding in Willow Creek? And what else had these kids and Max seen that no one else dared to face? Stick with me, because the shadows are growing longer, and Max's relentless pursuit is about to tear open a truth that will shake this town to its core. What if the truth you've been chasing is buried just beneath the surface, and only a Labrador's heart could dig deep enough to expose it? The air in Willow Creek turned heavy, like the calm before a storm that's been brewing for years. The river whispered its secrets, but it was Max, our golden Labrador hero, who was ready to roar them out loud. In the fading light of an Oregon dusk, the town was about to face a reckoning, and it all hinged on a dog who refused to let the shadows win. Dr. Elena Vargas stood outside Mark Thompson's cabin, her heart hammering like a drum in her chest. The modest house sat on the edge of Willow Creek, its peeling paint and sagging porch hiding something far uglier than neglect. Max, his silver-flecked fur glowing faintly under the porch light, paced beside her, his nose low to the ground, ears twitching at every creak of the surrounding pines. Elena had come under the pretense of another welfare check. But the truth was sharper. She was chasing the ghost of those children's drawings, the ones with work boots and rivers and a dog who knew too much. Max's growls had been her compass, leading her here to the place where secrets festered like rot in the damp earth. Inside Mark was all charm, offering Elena a glass of sweet tea with that practiced smile. "Just checking on Lily's recovery, huh?" he said, his voice smooth as oil. But his eyes flicked to Max, who stood rigid by the door, a low rumble vibrating in his chest. "That dog's got a temper," Mark added, chuckling, but his hands clenched just a bit too tight. Elena forced a smile, her mind racing. "Oh, Max is just protective," she said. But inside, she was screaming, "You're not fooling us, Mark. That dog sees right through you." She'd seen too many cases of abusers who hid behind charisma, their violence cloaked in small-town trust. Studies from the National Child Abuse Hotline show that over 60% of abusers are family members, often manipulating their way out of suspicion. The cause: power control, sometimes a twisted echo of their own past pain. The effect: kids like Lily, silenced, carrying scars that could shape their entire lives. Higher risks of anxiety, trust issues, even chronic illness, per decades of research. Compare that to cases like Larry Nassar, where charm delayed justice for years, versus whistleblowers like those in the Me Too movement who broke silence with raw courage. The mistake: assuming nice guys don't hurt. The lesson: one act of courage can shatter chains of fear, and Max was that courage, fur and all. Labradors like Max are built for this fight. Their empathetic hearts and scent-tracking noses, capable of detecting stress hormones or hidden objects from yards away, make them perfect allies in crises. Think of Balto, the sled dog, who delivered medicine in 1925 Alaska, or modern therapy labs helping trauma survivors in schools. Max's instincts were screaming now, his paws scratching at the dirt outside Mark's shed, as Elena followed her, breath-catching. "What is it, boy?" she whispered, her voice barely steady. Max dug furiously, unearthing a small weathered journal, its pages stained with mud, and something darker ink smudged with what looked like blood. Elena's hands shook as she opened it. Pages of Mark's scrawled notes, dates, names: Lily, Alex, Mia, Tyler, and chilling phrases like "too curious" or "needs to learn." "My God, Max, you found it!" she gasped, her heart soaring and sinking at once. This was the proof, the smoking gun, but it came with a cost. The truth was uglier than she'd feared. But hold on, folks. Here's the twist that turned Willow Creek upside down, the kind that'll make your jaw drop and your heart race. As Elena clutched the journal, the school called Mark was there signing out young Alex for family reasons. Panic surged through her. She raced to Willow Creek Elementary, Max bounding beside her, his limping gait forgotten in the heat of the chase. They burst into the office just as Mark stood by Alex, his hand gripping the boy's shoulder a little too tightly. Alex's eyes were wide, his knuckles white on his backpack. "Elena, what's this about?" Mark said, his voice calm but edged with ice. Max didn't hesitate. He lunged not at Mark, but at Alex's bag, his teeth clamping onto the zipper with a ferocity that stunned the room. "Max, you legend?" Elena thought, her pulse pounding. With a fierce tug, the bag ripped open, spilling a locket onto the floor. A silver heart engraved with Lily's initials, identical to the one from the riverbank. The office froze. Mrs. Harper gasped. The secretary stopped typing. Alex's eyes brimmed with tears, and Mark's face twisted, a flash of feral rage breaking through his mask. The truth hit like a thunderclap. The locket wasn't just Lily's, it matched one Mia had lost, and another Tyler had described. Mark wasn't just abusing one child. He was a predator weaving a web across multiple families. But the real gut punch, a crumpled note, fell from the bag, written in Alex's shaky hand. He hurts dogs too. Elena's blood ran cold. Mark's cruelty extended to animals, Max's own kind making the Labrador's mission personal. In real life, abusers often target pets to control victims, with ASPCA data showing 70% of domestic violence cases involve animal cruelty. The mistake: ignoring these red flags as unrelated. The lesson: evil doesn't stop at one species protecting kids means protecting their furry guardians too. Max stood firm, his growl echoing like a war drum, his eyes locked on Mark as if daring him to move. The sheriff, Chief Harris, burst in, drawn by the commotion. "What the hell's going on?" he demanded, but his eyes fell on the journal in Elena's hands, the locket, the note. Mark's charm crumbled, his voice rising in a venomous hiss. "You're all crazy. This is nothing." But Max's bark cut through a sound so fierce it felt ancient, like the call of every dog who'd ever guarded the vulnerable. You tell him Max. Elena thought, her heart swelling with pride. The tide was turning, but the storm wasn't over. As Chief Harris cuffed Mark, his face pale with the weight of the evidence, Elena knelt by Alex, her voice soft. "You're safe now, buddy." Max licked the boy's hand, gentle as a whisper. And for the first time, Alex's shoulders relaxed. But the shadows of Willow Creek still loomed: other kids, other secrets, and a town that needed to face its own silence. Stay with us, because Max's fight is far from finished, and the next revelation will shake this town to its roots. What if a town's healing began with the courage of a single dog, but the echoes of his bark carried a challenge to us all? The sun dipped low over Willow Creek, painting the river in hues of gold and crimson, as if the water itself was trying to wash away the stains of the past. The town felt different now, not whole, not yet, but like it had finally taken a deep breath after years of holding it in. At the heart of this shift stood Max, our golden Labrador hero, his silver-streaked fur catching the last rays of light as he lay by the riverbank, eyes half closed but always watchful. The truth had broken free, thanks to his relentless heart. But the journey to healing was just beginning, and it was about to leave an unforgettable mark on Willow Creek. The town hall was packed that evening, the air thick with nervous energy, and the faint smell of coffee brewed too long. Parents, teachers, and kids filled the creaky wooden benches, their faces a mix of shock, guilt, and hope. Sheriff Harris stood at the podium, his badge glinting under the fluorescent lights, his voice steady but heavy as he laid out the case. Mark Thompson was in custody, the journal and locket, undeniable evidence of his crimes against Lily, Alex, Mia, and Tyler. But it wasn't just about one man. It was about a town that had looked away too long. Dr. Elena Vargas rose next, her hands clasped tightly, her voice soft but fierce. "We failed these kids," she said, her eyes scanning the crowd. "But they didn't fail us. They spoke through their drawings, their silence, and through Max. That dog saw what we wouldn't." The room fell quiet, the kind of silence that wraps around you when truth hits home. Then a small voice piped up, a girl named Sophie, clutching her mother's hand. "I drew the man too," she whispered, and the dam broke. One by one, kids raised their hands, their stories spilling out like river water over a broken levee. My God, Elena thought, tears stinging her eyes. These kids, they're the real heroes, and Max gave them a voice. This moment wasn't just a turning point for Willow Creek. It was a mirror for every community hiding from hard truths. Child abuse thrives in silence, fed by denial and fear of stirring trouble. Research from the National Child Traumatic Stress Network shows that early intervention can cut trauma's long-term effects by 40%, giving kids a chance at resilience instead of lifelong scars. But the cause? It's often us communities prioritizing harmony over justice, like in rural towns where "he's one of us" excuses red flags. Compare this to transformations like the #MeToo movement, where voices shattered decades of cover-ups versus tragedies like the Penn State scandal, where silence let abuse fester. The mistake. Thinking it's not our place to speak up. The lesson. In a world of whispers, be the bark that demands change, because when we listen, we heal. Max, bless his Labrador soul, was the spark for that change. Labs are wired for connection. Their empathetic eyes and gentle nudges, making them stars in therapy programs like the ones helping kids in schools after disasters. Max lay at the edge of the town hall stage, his breathing slow as kids approached to pet him, their small hands brushing his fur like a silent thank you. Lily, now sitting up in the hospital, had whispered to Elena, "Max hears things people don't." And he did his nose-catching fear, his heart-feeling pain no one else dared name. But here's the twist that left Willow Creek reeling, the kind that'll tug at your heart and keep you glued to this story. As the meeting ended, Clara Benson, Max's owner, stood up, her voice trembling. "Max isn't just a hero," she said, pulling out a faded photo from her purse. It showed a younger Max, barely a year old, with a boy who looked like Lily, her lost brother, the child Max couldn't save from the river years ago. "He's been carrying that loss his whole life," Clara choked out. This was his redemption. The crowd gasped, some wiping tears, as Max lifted his head, his eyes meeting Lily's across the room as if saying, "This time I didn't fail." But the real gut punch came later at a riverside ceremony the next morning. The town gathered by the Willow River candles flickering in the dawn light to honor Max. They unveiled a simple stone statue, a Labrador mid-bark etched with the words, "Here stood the truth no one else dared to see." Kids laid wildflowers, daisies, dandelions, and scraps of paper with their names, a quiet promise to keep speaking. Elena placed a smooth river rock beside it, her fingers tracing the words. "You did it, Max," she whispered, her voice thick. "You saved them all." But as the crowd dispersed, a young boy, Tyler, tugged at Elena's sleeve, handing her a new drawing. It showed Max by the river, but behind him, another shadow. A different man, not Mark, watching from the trees. Elena's breath caught. Was Mark just the beginning? Had Max's barks uncovered a deeper darkness still lurking in Willow Creek? This wasn't just a story's end, it was a call to action for every one of us. Animal lovers, you know the power of dogs like Max. Their loyalty, their courage, their ability to change lives. Real-life heroes like therapy, labs and children's hospitals show us that animals heal where humans falter. The mistake: underfunding programs that pair dogs with trauma survivors. The lesson: stories end, but their impact endures. Support those who give voice to the voiceless furry or not. So what's your story? Has a dog like Max ever saved you? Maybe not from a river, but from a dark day. Drop it in the comments, and let's celebrate these heroes together. If Max's tail moved, you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more heart-pounding, heartwarming stories of dogs who change the world. Better yet, check out your local animal shelter, adopt a lab, donate to canine retiree programs, or volunteer. Let's keep Max's legacy alive. But hold on, Willow Creek's shadows aren't done whispering. What's lurking in that new drawing? Stay tuned, because Max's next fight might be his biggest yet.